Morning or afternoon, teacher tutors, trainees and QAMs or any school-based mentors or anybody else that's listening in. Thank you for joining us for this training session. We hope that you receive all of the information that you need and that it's very clear. If not, there is at the end of the session, we will share details of the Zoom for further questions.
So the aims of the session are written on the screen there. We're going to take some time to talk you through the final assessment point, AP3, and the procedures that we're going to be following at this stage. We want to ensure that trainees and teacher tutors, as well as QAMs, are clear on the expectations of the assignment part of the visit, but also the visit itself and the timings. And we're also going to put into this video some information about what to expect in terms of end of placement procedures.
So assessment point 3, the purpose of it is to provide further evidence that you or that your trainee is meeting the teacher standards. This will be scrutinised at the assessment board on Thursday, the 29th of June. But really, the final assessment point, trainees and teacher tutors, it will give you that final piece of evidence that all of the information that you need to write that end of placement report form, where you are making the judgment as to whether your trainee is or has met all of the teacher standards.
So the components of AP3 then are there for you to see on the screen. We've got task 1, which is a professional reflection. We'll talk about that in more detail later on, but it's no different to those personal reflections that you've already done at the other 2 assessment points. There will also be a reflective presentation during this assignment. Again, we'll talk about it in more detail, and you'll have half an hour lesson observation. And this needs to be in a subject that you have not been observed in by a QAM before. Please pay attention to that slide when we get to it. It's the same message that we reiterate at every single point. So that should be a subject that you have not been observed in by a QAM before.
So the first task, and this is also the task, trainees, that we really recommend that you start with. The question pro forma will be uploaded onto Teams today, so you can start looking at it whenever you have time and feel ready to. But if you want to leave that till half term as well, that might be sensible. So at this point, with your professional reflections, you are reflecting across the year, and your understanding will have developed and moved on, teaching across 2 key stages and having exposure to other settings as well. And you need to consider all of that when you're reflecting on your practice. And as we also always keep saying, you also need to be considering the centre-based training that you've had and any evidence-based theory or research that has further informed your understanding, your thinking, your practice, and that you're observing as well. When you're completing these reflections, you need to articulate when you're presenting, but through your written reflections, that you are demonstrating and explaining the progress that you've made. It's really important that you're reflecting on, your initial observations and understanding and how they've developed across the year. We're saying provide evidence of your experiences. So make it tangible. Talk about things that have actually happened or that you've observed or that you've done in the classroom. Always bring that back together though, making sure that you're triangulating it. You will be bored of that word, but you are bringing it all together. This is what I'm doing because this is what I've observed and this is what I've learned and this is what I know, and you're bringing all of those components together. Once you've completed this document, please make sure it is uploaded to Teams at least 24 hours before your visit. You probably will complete it well in advance of that, but just make sure that that document is in your QAM file on Teams. Also, just to further say that 5D, your reflection, will inform your 5C presentation activity. We just really want to highlight to you that it might feel a little bit repetitive, but that is a purposeful choice. The idea really is that they work alongside each other and they enhance one another, but that you start by reflecting through those questions, and it is from that you're able to build on it and create or put together your presentation.
Okay, task 2, the presentation itself. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this because trainees, like we've said previously, we are going to have an assessment point 3 afternoon with you where there is time allocated for you to complete the presentation if you wish, and for us to talk you through it in a little bit more detail. However, on the screen there is just a little bit of an idea about the different parts of the presentation that we're expecting to see. So it will be in a 20-minute time frame, and the format of the presentation is essentially down to you. However, we do expect to see a clear introduction, introducing the presentation itself, what you're going to be talking about. And it's that middle bullet point there, body of evidence, that you might feel is quite repetitive because you'll recognise them as the curriculum areas, and that's what the questions in 5D are based around. We'd also expect to see a summary, some key takeaway points, either for your training moving on or for your ECT years as well. Like I said, we haven't shared that with you yet, trainees. That's just an idea, and we will go into it in more depth with you on the 25th of May.
And Teacher Tutors and Quams, I think it's quite exciting for you. We can't tell you what you're going to see. It might be a short film, it might be a written assignment, it might be a presentation, it might be a film, it might be a portfolio. It's quite exciting that trainees can present in a style that best suits them. Now, what makes a good presentation? Normally, when we get to these assessment points, we present you with a pro forma to assess against to support your assessments. We have decided that this year we're not going to give that to you. We're actually going to create it with the trainees when they have their AP3 session. So when that is created, we will share that with you. But we really hope that that will mean that all trainees have got a really thorough and clear idea of what will make their presentation successful. We will start by analysing previous examples and then talk to them about how theirs might look. Some of the aspects that we will be considering are, the basic structure of a presentation, their presenting style, what would make that successful, their ability to reflect and what that reflection might look like and what it means to reflect. We will also be talking with trainees about how they will demonstrate that they have had an impact on the children in the classes that they've been placed in. However they're presenting, that they are able to triangulate their learning across the year. But importantly, what next? This is where they're at now, but what does this mean for them as they start their ECT years and beyond?
Okay, so moving on to the structure of the visit then, and it will be a 3-hour visit. So as we said previously, please make sure that you have got cover in class because although we'll be in there observing, as you can see on the screen, for half an hour, there are times where we need to be together to observe other parts of the assessment point, but also discuss the lesson as well. I think the key difference in terms of the lesson observation for this visit is that before the lesson starts, there will need to be 10 minutes for the trainee to explain their lesson plan to the teacher tutor and the QA mentor. For example, talking through why they have structured the tasks in a specific way, possibly talking about why they chose to deploy their teaching assistants and what their expectations are there, and essentially to demonstrate their knowledge and understanding of scaffolding children and how pupils learn. We'll then move into a lesson observation, and that lesson observation is of the trainee's choice. But remember, as we said previously, and as it says on the screen, it should be a subject that hasn't been formally observed by the current or the previous QAM. Okay, and that will be a half-an-hour session. We know that doesn't often lend itself very easily, so it might be that the trainee teaches the first half an hour and then somebody else comes in to finish the lesson off. As usual with a QAM visit, there will be a follow-up time for the trainee to complete their self-evaluation, for the teacher tutor and the QAM to agree their feedback, and then the feedback session itself using the coaching approach.
The professional reflections. It's a really busy day, and we hope that these timings will help you, and just, I think, try to stick to them as closely as you can. So for the first 20 minutes, teacher tutor and QAM will have an opportunity to read through and reflect on the professional reflections that have been completed by the trainee. You will then go straight into the reflective presentation, and that will take 20 minutes. Again, trainees, you must stick to timings. Then the Teacher Tutor and QAM, you will need some time to sit together, to discuss 5D and 5C, to draw your conclusions and prepare the feedback and the questions that you are going to have with the trainee. We've allowed 20 minutes for this because I think during this feedback session, it's really important that you can ask the trainee questions, because you might need further answers, further evidence, further explanation. And once you've had that, you can give the trainees their feedback. And then at the end of the visit, we've allowed 20 minutes to ensure that all of the feedback is given, that the written feedback is completed on the documents. And yeah, to ensure that all of the feedback is there, but also that it is signed by everybody that needs to, and that's clearly marked on the assessment sheet, so you know where to put your signatures and where to give your feedback. We would advise at this point as well that that you can pop and see the school-based mentor, share with them the feedback given, and get them to attach their signature as well.
Okay, on the screen in front of us then is a to-do list for Teacher Tutors and QAMs at AP3. So the first one is on the 5D pro forma. You might remember from previous assessment points that at the bottom of the professional reflections, there's an area for you to summarise your thoughts on the reflections that the trainees written and form any questions. The same is at the bottom of 5C for the presentation. There's an area for strengths and areas for development. Please make sure that you have written them there and that those are signed. Okay, these need to be uploaded to Teams. And then there's an opportunity as well to discuss 5G, the end of placement report, which we'll talk about later on. Just to make sure that with your QAM teacher tutors that you're agreeing that the trainee is currently meeting the teacher standards and that there are going to be no arising issues at the point of writing the report.
And then similarly for the trainee, this really is just a checklist for you. Prior to the visit, make sure your lesson plan observation sheets are printed out for the Teacher Tutor and QAM. Make sure your professional reflections are on Teams. Make sure your assignment is uploaded to Teams if you are able to, or if it's a portfolio that you're presenting, make sure that you have got that available for the QAM and Teacher Tutor to refer to. And then after the lesson, after the visit, make sure all of your documentation, the lesson plan, your reflections, and the feedback from your lesson observation is uploaded to Teams under the QAM visit.
Okay, moving swiftly on then to talk about end of placement procedures. Now, at the end of this placement, you will, Teacher Tutors, write a summative report. Okay, we do suggest that the trainee covers your class for half a day whilst you take the time to write this report, because it will go with them through their ECT portfolio. So the name of the report is 5G. You will find that in file 5 on Teams. And please, we ask that this is completed and signed by the 21st of June. And this is a final deadline because we do have paperwork that we need to do here to make sure that we're ready for the assessment board. So that is a final date, please, of the 21st of June. It's really important that we say if there are any concerns that you have about your trainee, their progress and meeting the teacher standards, this is the final time you can raise this. Okay, they must be raised now through the QAM or directly to Rachel and I. As you can see on the screen there are those areas that need signing. So the trainee will need to sign, the main placement teacher tutor will need to sign, the school-based mentor, and the QA can sign electronically. Okay, and the date needs to be written there as well.
This document is the first document that is probably looked at the assessment board. It's the document that is making the judgments as to whether the trainee has met all of the teacher standards. We know that some of you have written these before and will be confident in writing them. If you are not, please know that the school-based mentor is there for you to reach out to and support, that you can talk about it with your QAM. And if any of you would like an example of one of these, please let us know, because we can email that to you just as an example. End of MP3 reports. So just really to summarise really here, please make sure that all AP3 documentation is completed and uploaded to Teams on the visit day. End of placement report 5G, uploaded by June the 21st. The action plan, the MP3 action plan that was handed to you at the beginning of this placement, please also ensure that that is completed by the 21st of June. The last thing that you need to think about is the ECT action plan, and this is the final thing that you will be doing. And this is the action plan that is that travels with the trainee to their first employment. It's very similar to the action plans that you would write for each placement, and it's just to ensure that there is a smooth transition for the trainee, and that they're, that they are supported appropriately when they begin in their first teaching role. The targets that you put on here are just lifted from the end of placement report form. Okay, so we're not asking you to rethink of any targets. They are really, what are the targets from the end of placement report? What do they need further support with as they move on? And the date for that, please, is the 30th of June.
Okay, finally then, for your information, we do meet as an assessment board for a final assessment of each individual trainee, and we will be holding that assessment board on Thursday the 29th of June. From your part, please make sure that your trainee has all their paperwork in the right folder, clearly labelled, and that it's fully completed. Remember, for the trainees to be awarded QTS, all the teacher standards needs to be fully met. So please really think about the SMART targets that you're setting. Are they aligned with the curriculum statements that perhaps your trainee has needed more experience of? Make sure that they're really tailored so that there are no gaps in them, and there is no doubt that they have met the teaching standards fully. And where there are borderline cases, they are reviewed considering all relevant evidence. There might be additional moderations that have taken place as required across the partnership. So, for example, if your trainee has needed further support, we would look at those different elements as well in making a decision. It's important to say that at the assessment board, it's not just Rachel and I. It's made up of QAMs, some selected teacher tutors, school-based mentors, and head teachers across the partnership as well, as our accounting officer, John Mason.
That has probably been information overload. We wanted to put it all in one presentation so that you can just sort of have it there for reference when you need it. If you've got any further questions, if you need clarity on anything, please join us next week on Friday the 26th of May at 3:30, where we are having a Zoom session where you can just drop in and ask us questions.
Yvonne will be sending a link later on in the week, so do keep an eye out for that email. Okay, thank you so much for joining us today. As we've said already, please do reach out if you need anything else, and we look forward to seeing you possibly on the 26th of May.
Thank you.